Sometimes people aren't really quiet. They're just living in a world that feels more peaceful inside their own minds. They don't talk much. They observe. They imagine. They create stories in their heads. And while others are chasing noise, they find comfort in silence. Have you ever met someone like that? Someone who seems distant, always lost in thought, like their body is here but their mind is somewhere far away, in a world only they understand? Or maybe that person is you. There's a certain calmness in being alone with your thoughts. It's not loneliness, it's clarity. People who live in their own world often feel things more deeply. They notice details others miss. They connect ideas others overlook. But because they live inwardly, the world sometimes labels them as distant, strange, or detached. Yet psychology tells us this inward focus isn't a flaw. It's a form of emotional intelligence. In psychological terms, people who often retreat into their inner world tend to be introspective thinkers. Their minds are always active, analyzing, imagining, reflecting. This is especially common among highly creative or sensitive individuals. Their inner space becomes a sanctuary, a place to process emotions, explore ideas, and restore energy. From a biological point of view, their brains are wired for deep processing. While some people thrive on social stimulation, their nervous system becomes easily overwhelmed by it. So instead of constant engagement, they choose solitude, not because they dislike people, but because their mind needs rest from all the noise. It's like a computer with too many tabs open. Sometimes, you just need to close everything and let it breathe. But the outside world doesn't always understand that. Society often values visibility, extroversion, and connection, being seen and active. So when someone chooses to stay in their own quiet bubble, people might assume they're avoiding life. But in truth, they're experiencing life, just differently. Their inner world is not empty. It's full of imagination, ideas, and memories. They may spend hours thinking about one moment, one sentence, or one feeling. They don't move fast, but when they act, it comes from depth. They love slowly. They think carefully. They might not talk much in a group, but when they do, their words often carry weight. They see beauty where others see nothing, the way light hits a window, or how rain sounds on the roof. In psychology, this is called high sensitivity, a personality trait where the brain processes sensory and emotional information more deeply. It's not shyness, it's intensity, the kind that happens when your inner life is rich and vivid. But here's the reality. Sometimes living too much inside your world can also become a cage. Because while it's peaceful inside, it can also be isolating. You might start to feel disconnected, misunderstood, or unseen, like no one can reach the place where your thoughts live. This is where balance becomes important. It's okay to have your world, your quiet, private space where you recharge. But it's also okay to open the windows sometimes and let a little sunlight in. The people who care about you want to know your world too, even just a small corner of it. Because the moment you let someone in, you might realize they understand more than you thought. For others, the idea of staying in their own world can seem frustrating. They might interpret it as avoidance, disinterest, or self-centeredness. But if we look deeper, it's not about arrogance, it's about self-protection. Psychologically, people who withdraw often do so because they've been overwhelmed, disappointed, or hurt before. They learn that it's safer to live within the boundaries of their mind, where things make sense, where they can control the story. The outside world can feel unpredictable. People can be harsh, words can wound, and emotions can be too much. So they create a world inside themselves that feels safer, calmer, more beautiful. And sometimes, staying there is what helps them survive. In truth, it's not that they don't want to connect. They just want to connect authentically. They don't like small talk or shallow interactions. They crave real conversations about purpose, meaning, dreams, fears. They want to be understood, not just noticed. That's why, for them, silence is not distance, it's depth. When they're quiet, they're not empty. They're full of thoughts they haven't found words for yet. But for those who live in their heads too long, there's a hidden cost. You start to forget that the world outside also has colors worth seeing. You get so used to the comfort of imagination that the real world starts to feel dull or heavy. You begin to fear connection, even though you crave it. Psychology calls this emotional avoidance, when the mind uses imagination or isolation as a defense mechanism against discomfort. It feels safe, but it also keeps you stuck. And so, the challenge for people who live in their own world is not to stop being who they are, but to expand their world, to bring the beauty they carry inside and share it with the world outside, to let imagination meet reality. Because the world doesn't need you to be louder, it needs you to be real. And real means showing up, even in small ways. Even just by saying, "Hey, I think about things differently, but I'm here too." If you're someone who lives mostly in your head, I want you to know this. You are not weird. You are not broken. You just feel the world deeply, and that's a gift. Your inner world is where ideas are born, where compassion grows, where creativity lives. But don't let it be the only place you exist. Let people see glimpses of that beauty too. Because sometimes, what feels ordinary to you can be extraordinary to someone else. And if you love someone who lives in their own world, be patient. Don't try to drag them out. Instead, knock softly. Show them that the real world can be gentle too. In the end, the psychology of people who stay in their own world is not about isolation. It's about preservation. They're not running away from life. They're trying to understand it in their own way. They're not avoiding people. They're protecting their peace. But peace doesn't have to mean disconnection. It can mean choosing when to step out, when to open up, and when to rest. Because the truth is, the inner world and the outer world aren't enemies. They're reflections of each other. When you learn to live in both, you become whole. So, to those quiet souls who live in their own universe, keep your softness, but don't hide it. The world needs your kind of depth. The people who truly see you will never ask you to change. They'll simply say, "Tell me what it's like in there." And maybe that's how connection begins, not by forcing you out, but by walking gently in. You are allowed to be private and still be present. You are allowed to dream and still belong. You are allowed to have your world. Just remember, you also deserve to be part of this one. So maybe today, instead of staying fully inside, take one small step outward. Say hi, share a thought. Let the world feel your presence, even just for a moment. Because sometimes, the bridge between two worlds starts with one simple word. Hello. Are you someone who lives in your own world? I'd love to hear how it feels for you. Write and share your thoughts in the comments below. Let's understand each other a little more, one story at a time.